Hi, this is John Sterling, and you're listening to the Bat Boys Corner podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode number 3 of the Bat Boys Corner podcast. I'm Billy Pinkney coming at you from the Bat Boys Corner studios in Little Falls, New Jersey. Today we'll be talking about several different topics including the diminished MLB draft and MLB's plan to wipe out 40 minor league clubs. And to share his input with us in a bit, we'll have Darren Fenster on over the phone. He's the minor league outfield and base running coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. So before we talk to Darren Fenster, we're going to take a look at some recent announcements from the commissioner's office. It was recently announced that the MLB draft has been moved from June to July, and the most dramatic change is that there will only be 5 to 10 rounds instead of 40. So that right there is pretty crazy to imagine how that's going to work for all the other guys who would have been drafted between, say, the 6th and the 40th rounds. Also, if teams want to sign a guy as undrafted free agents, they can do so with up to a $20,000 signing bonus. So that's the plan regarding the drafts, and a few months ago, Major League Baseball also made a proposal to pretty much unaffiliate 40 minor league teams. So as you can imagine, that will have a pretty drastic effect on minor league baseball in general, as well as the fans and the communities. So when we come back, we're going to have Darren Fenster on over the phone to talk about his coaching career, the draft, and the situation with the minor league teams. Throughout my interviews over the years, I've always asked my interviewees what advice they would give to a younger player. I've decided to take those clips of motivational advice and turn them into Motivation Monday. Check BillyTheBatBoysCorner.com every Monday to receive brand new advice from professional athletes. All right, we are back here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast with the minor league outfield and base running coordinator for the Boston Red Sox, and that's Darren Fenster. Coach, thanks for coming on.
Billy, good to be here.
All right, I definitely want to talk about how Major League Baseball will be conducting this year's draft, as well as what they want to do with those 40 minor league teams. But before we get to that, I just want to take a dive into your career thus far, your resume. If you could just take us through your career, born in Jersey, playing college ball in Jersey, playing pro ball, starting your coaching career at Rutgers, and now currently working for a big league organization.
Yeah, not exactly how I drew it up. You know, I think growing up, I always imagined myself playing for the Yankees and riding off into the sunset, in my late 30s after a great big league career. And here I am, working on the minor league side with the Red Sox, a team that I didn't exactly like growing up, but everything happens for a reason, and my journey is one that continues to evolve, and it's one that I love being on right now. And it started down the Jersey Shore in Middletown and then progressed to Rutgers as a player, and then fortunate enough to get drafted by the Royals and played 6 years before my career had gotten cut short because of an injury, at which point Coach Hill, who was the coach at Rutgers at the time who I played for, he asked me if I had any interest in coaching because he thought that I had it in me to become a good coach. And at that point in my life, it was the spring of 2006, at that point in my life, straight out of getting released, I really didn't have a plan B. So I said, what the hell, let me give it a try, and took to the profession very quickly. The guys that were at Rutgers at the time, the players, they really made me feel like I could have an impact on their lives in the same way that many coaches had an impact on me. And, I was just off and running with it. Spent a couple summers going away, coaching some NCAA wood bat summer leagues. Spent a total of 6 years at Rutgers, at which point I started getting the itch to get back onto the pro side of the game. And right time, right place, and in with the right people. The Red Sox hired me prior to the start of the 2012 season. And I started as a hitting coach in A-ball and then progressed to becoming a rookie ball manager, A-ball manager, double-A manager. And this past year was my second season as our outfield and base running coordinator, where I'm essentially responsible for our approach to how we develop outfielders and base running for the entire minor league system. And I've worn a number of different hats, and being able to share this experience with a lot of people to help move the game forward and help people understand the things it takes to be successful on a number of different levels is something that I really value, and I continue to appreciate it still to this day.
Right. Now, can you talk about that transition from becoming a player to a coach? Was that difficult for you, or was it pretty smooth?
No, it was hard because I wasn't ready to stop playing at the time. I had gotten hurt in spring training of 2005 while I was with the Major League team. Missed all of the 2005 season, had surgery, and went back to spring training in 2006 while I was medically cleared. I wasn't the player that I was, but I figured I would have some time to get back to that level, and the organization decided to move forward in a different direction without me. And, I didn't expect to be done playing at, 26, 27 years old, coming off the year that I had in 2004 that had earned me an invite to Major League Spring Training in 2005. And it definitely, there were probably my first couple years as a coach, I definitely still felt like I was a player. And foolishly, I probably felt like I could still play when I realized now that I probably couldn't have, knowing how my body feels.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, my injury was the end of my playing career, but it was the start of a coaching career that I'm very fortunate to be in right now.
Right. Now, when did you realize that joining a big league organization as a coach was something of interest to you? Can you take us through that when you found out of that opportunity?
I had gotten the itch after our 2011 season at Rutgers, where Coach Hill was the guy who the reason I'm a coach is because of him, because he saw something in me before I was even ready to see it in myself. And as a program, we were starting to struggle in the middle of the pack of the Big East, and I loved the game so much to the point where I wanted to have a career in it, and I realized that Coach Hill was in his 70s at that time, and if I wasn't going to be named the next head coach, there was probably a distinct possibility that I was going to be out of a job and potentially out of baseball entirely. So I just started to network with a lot of the people who I got to know over the years as a player, as a coach, as a recruiter. And, it just so happened that with the Red Sox, I had known more guys in that organization than anybody else. And, those powers that be got my information and my interest in front of the guys who were making the decisions. And, was fortunate to get an interview over the phone. And a week later, I was up at Fenway, and a week later, I got offered the job. And that was very much about a 5-month process to the point from when I started to just pursue conversations with people in professional baseball in the summer of 2011 to the point of actually being offered a job in the middle of December of that same year. So it took a while to get in, and everybody says the toughest part about working in professional baseball is getting your first job and getting your foot in the door, and then once you're in, kind of maneuver your way around a little bit into the areas that you want to, and I am living proof of that exact example.
Right. Now, since you've been involved in both college programs and minor league organizations, how differently is a college program run compared to a minor league organization?
On the job side, when you're a college coach, probably 20% of the job is actually being a coach and being on the field. On the professional side, it's 90% of the job is on the field. And when you're a professional coach, it's 100% baseball. You don't have to worry about recruiting or scouting or academics or strength and conditioning. You have other people who are in those positions where on the college side, you have to wear so many different hats and there's so many different elements of it. The relationship that you have with players is completely different, because on the college side, you might, from start to finish, from when you begin recruiting a kid to after they leave the program, you might be talking about a 5 or 6 year relationship, whereas on the pro side, depending on your own progression as a coach in your career, you may have a group 1 year and then the next year you have a completely different group. Very rarely do you see coaches who kind of stick with the same group of players over the years and are able to build that kind of a relationship that you have, that you would have in the nature of the college side, where you're with guys for extended years over that period of time. But they're, on the field, I think the game is very similar. You got to invest time in getting players to get better. You have to invest time in getting your teams to understand what it takes to win. On the college side, the focus is far more winning-centric than it is on the professional side, where essentially a minor league, every minor league game is a practice game. In the big picture of what we're trying to do, we're trying to develop Major League Baseball players who will help us win at the Major League level with the Boston Red Sox. So their entire minor league career is an effort to prepare them to do that. So while those guys who are in the trenches, and myself included, we don't treat them as practice games. They essentially are, but we're able to, help players understand what it takes to win while getting them better at the same time.
Right. Now, is it more of a challenge for you to do what you're doing now, float up and down throughout the levels, as opposed to staying with one team throughout the season?
I think every job has its challenges. This is far more of a macro job from 36,000 feet than it is, a micro job being on the ground at one spot with 25 guys.
Right.
We're responsible. It's very much a quality control job to make sure that everybody is on the same page doing what we need to do from AAA all the way down to the Dominican. Now, each level presents its own areas of focus where, in Pawtucket, our AAA club, we're trying to mirror as best we can what they're doing at the major league level so that when they do get called up, it's as smooth a transition as it can be. Now, you take that down to our rookie ball teams or our A-ball teams, it's not going to look anything like what we're doing at the AAA level because our focus is not mirroring the major leagues. It's preparing them to get better so that hopefully at some point they're able to go to AA and they're able to go to AAA. And it's very much a stepping stone. So
right.
I really enjoy that aspect, to be able to have an impact on the entire organization, to have an impact on our culture as base runners, as what we're going to be all about as outfielders. And, people ask me all the time if I miss managing or which is the better job, and I absolutely miss managing. I love being in the grind with players for 6 months over the course of the year and that nightly competition. But in its own right, to have this kind of a big picture impact on an entire organization, and one like the Red Sox is one that I really value and I'm really enjoying right now.
Right. Is it harder to build relationships with the players since you're not with them full time, or as if you were a manager, you would have that opportunity to be with them throughout the whole season?
Completely different types of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We set our foundation for whatever we're going to do over the course of the year in spring training, when we have a chance to spend 6 weeks, 2 months under the same roof with everybody all together at one time. So that's where our relationships are built. Mm-hmm. And then throughout the course of the year, and in this role, it's as much about building relationships with our coaches as it is our players, because our coaches are the ones who are with our players. Those are our boots on the ground every single day, getting them better every single day. So as we come into town, and there are other guys in the organization who have a very similar position as I do, as we go into each affiliate roughly once a month, we continue to cultivate those relationships on both sides with the players and with the coaches, so that our impact on both can continue to grow throughout the course of the year.
Right. Now, as the outfield and base running coordinator, what are some of your responsibilities? Are you out there on the field working with the guys, or is it more of a sit back and analyze and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do?
It's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably way more active on the field during spring training, when we're putting in our systems and putting in our processes with the players in terms of what our expectations are, what our focal points are defensively, and the drills that we want to do, the drills that are going to help them develop. And then as we kind of go out throughout the course of the year, you kind of pick your spots, you pick your players in terms of what you want to focus on for those 3 or 4 days when you're in town, because, you have to give up some ownership to the guys who are with them every day, because, I could come in for 3 or 4 days and blow up the entire operation, but then what are they going to do for the next 26 days
mm-hmm.
that are left in the month? So during the year, it's far more of an evaluative position, but you definitely still have your hand on the pulse of what's going on, and you just give the coaches and the players, 1 or 2 specific things to lock in on, to focus on for the next month or so until we come back to town, and then once hopefully they master that, then we move on to the next thing.
Right. Now, something else I want to mention is that you're also an advisor at USA Baseball. What kind of experience has that been like for you?
That's more of on the educational side of the game, where I write it turned into a monthly blog, but it used to be a weekly blog on their educational branch that I've really enjoyed doing, because it forced me to kind of stay sharp and constantly think about different parts of the game, everything from its specific to how to turn a double play to big picture coaching and leadership topics that I think are relevant to our game and helping grow our game and helping coaches at the grassroots level have an idea of what it takes to just instill a love and a knowledge of the game into their players, even though, you know, they may be 8, 9, 10, 11 years old and the furthest they could possibly be from the major league level that I'm trying to work towards right now. And it's been a very valuable experience that I continue to enjoy that relationship with, you know, the nation's governing body on our sport.
Right. Now, I just want to switch gears a bit and talk about what Major League Baseball has been talking about in regards to the draft, as well as taking away 40 minor league teams. First, the draft. They're talking about reducing the rounds from 40 to 5 to 10. This would have a major impact on not just the players, but the minor league systems as well. In your opinion, what do you feel will be some of the greatest effects of the shortened draft?
Well, this is obviously a byproduct of what our country is going through right now, and
right.
Obviously there are far bigger issues than the Major League Baseball draft. But at the end of the day, you know, I think the powers that be at Major League Baseball are trying to maneuver the best they can around something that this country has never seen. And, you know, the fact that there's a lot of baseball that's not being played right now. There are so many different elements to that, just like the effects of, you know, the world in general on things not being able to be done. Baseball is no different in that respect, and I think they're just trying to proceed in a way that's best for Major League Baseball. And you know, as someone who was a 12th round draft pick myself, obviously if there's only 5 rounds in a draft or 12 rounds in a draft, I'm not, or 10 rounds in a draft, I'm not getting drafted, which obviously sucks. And I've always been a proponent of opportunities for players to play, whether that be at the grassroots level or even professionally. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's something that they're trying to implement to work with our time right now with what's going on. And just like our country, baseball will get through it. And who knows what it'll look like when all is said and done, but at some point we're going to all get back on the field, and the draft is going to go back to being the draft where a bunch of players who are deserving get the opportunity to play, and we go back to developing those players into becoming major leaguers.
Right. Now, in the first 5 rounds, teams typically draft about 5 or 6 players, right? Depending on what selections.
I'm not that familiar with what the particulars of the new drafts are going to be.
Yeah. But
if there's 5 rounds, I think relative to what the draft traditionally is with 40 rounds, I mean, obviously that's a significant cut in what the draft usually is. So, you know, you're only talking about a handful of players out of the draft that are going to be joining your organization. I don't know if there are going to be any limits on what teams are going to be able to do on a free agent standpoint, because, you know, traditionally if we have a 40 round draft, we're probably signing 30 of our players. So the difference between 5 new players coming into the organization and 30 is pretty significant. So I'm sure that a lot of that gap is going to be filled by non-drafted free agents, but to what extent, I think remains to be seen.
Right. How many additional players do you think organizations would end up signing as undrafted free agents?
I don't think there's any way to tell right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that may be something that goes from team to team, where maybe some teams are perfectly content with only bringing 5 new players into the organization, and others want to stockpile and bring 30. So who knows? Right.
Now, another part of this is instead of getting a signing bonus at one shot, they would instead receive it over a 3-year span, a stipend for the following 2 Julys or something like that. So is it better for the players to receive their full signing bonus up front, or do you think this plan makes more sense?
To each their own. I mean, if someone's looking to buy a house the day that they sign, they probably would want their money up front. But if someone's looking to, you know, invest and be smart with their money, and, you know, to know that they have X number of dollars coming in over the next 3 years, you know, I think that might be a little bit more a little bit more calming than the alternative. So I think that's an individual choice as to how that would be handled.
Yeah. They were saying that next year's draft might be 20 rounds instead. Do you think that organizations will shy away from signing younger guys and stick with the players who are already in the system?
Not necessarily. I think all teams are always looking to bring the best players into their system. Mm-hmm. So if, regardless of whether or not it's a 5-round draft or a 20-round draft or a 40-round draft, every organization has an approach of how they're going to, bring new players into the organization. And, I think the general approach is that, hey, they're trying to draft the best player on the board. It's very different from the NFL or the NBA where, if a team has a Pro Bowl quarterback in his second year in the organization on the team and he's got a 5-year contract, well, quarterback is not a priority because of the minor league system, because guys take years to get up to the big leagues. It is really a situation of just trying to have some attrition of some talent that you could develop, and then who knows when those players are going to be ready, and who knows where your major league team will be at that point. And for years everybody talked about it being, if you were shortstop with the Yankees, it was a wasted spot, but because you had Derek Jeter there, but perhaps that forces a player to learn a different position. So perhaps that player becomes a trade piece, or perhaps that player fills in for Derek Jeter when he goes down. And there are so many different ways that players can get to the big leagues, and a lot of times it doesn't carry the same picture that they initially think when they first get drafted.
Right. Now, the other topic that has kind of been put on the back burner as of late has been the proposal to eliminate 40-plus minor league teams from rookie ball all the way up to Double-A. Now, you've managed in some of these ballparks and have visited some of those cities. What kind of destruction would that have on not just the players, but the fans and the communities?
But I think this is a bit of a 2 or 3 pronged answer that has a number of different sides to it. From our perspective of having players to coach, again, it goes back to eliminating opportunities to play, which I don't think anybody is happy about. I will say this, that some of these affiliates that are potentially going to be eliminated, I think the idea of them being eliminated is to make minor league baseball better for everybody else in terms of the facilities, in terms of the travel, in terms of our ability to better prepare guys to become major leaguers. And for those who will be left remaining, I think that's going to be a positive. A lot of organizations, you're looking at teams being eliminated, but in essence, teams have been eliminated for years when they get bought out by somebody and they move to a new city. So the same thing has been happening. And, for that city and that town, it's not a positive by any means, but, hopefully in those instances, like, for example, Savannah, Georgia was a team in the South Atlantic League that was playing in one of the oldest stadiums in all of minor league baseball. And, they wound up moving to Columbia, South Carolina. And the year after they moved to Columbia, South Carolina, a college summer league team moved into Savannah, and they're now known as the Savannah Bananas, and they're one of the most successful summer team organizations that are in this country right now and do a really, really impressive job. So hopefully those cities that do lose their teams, depending on how this whole thing works out, hopefully there's some other form of baseball that they will be to move into that city and where they can still have that same sort of blueprint that has taken place in Savannah, where it's still baseball, but just a different form that the community can get behind.
Yeah, well, most of the teams that they want to take away are rookie ball level teams. Do you think that eventually they would want to get rid of that level as well as short season leagues?
I'm not educated enough on what's going on behind closed doors with that, so I don't know the approach of why they're choosing the spot for the league that they are.
Right. Now, I know they were talking about creating another type of indie ball league called the Dream League or something like that, which would allow the fans and communities to still be involved, but it's just not affiliated. Do you think that would be a nice alternative for this if they follow through with it?
If it creates an opportunity for people to play after high school, after college, whatever it is, then I think it's a positive. And it will become something that the players, it's whatever they make of it. If they're going to be upset and pissed off that they didn't find themselves with an affiliated team, well, they're probably never going to find themselves with an affiliated team. Mm-hmm. If a player is, just thankful for the opportunity to play and really takes advantage of it and gets better, well, then that's the type of attitude that you're going to see some development within that individual player, and he's putting himself in a position to get picked up by an affiliated team. And I think that the cities, will take a very similar approach. Whether you're bitter about not having an affiliated team anymore, it's probably not going to be a good situation versus hey, it might not be affiliated, but we have baseball here, and we're going to run with it with what we have.
Right.
And that's something that I do believe applies to so many different walks of life beyond the game.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I just want to bring up something you started. You have a website called Coaching Your Kids. You post a lot of great stuff. Can you tell the listeners what you do and the content that you post?
Really, all that is that was the start of my blog before I kind of transitioned entirely over to USA Baseball with what I write. But what I've done over the years is just been a resource for a number of different organizations to use. Like I had said at the beginning, with the number of different hats that I've worn, going back to being a player to in college, to a professional player, to a college coach, to a college recruiter, to a professional hitting coach, to minor league manager, to now a minor league coordinator. I have a ton of different experience that I feel it's my responsibility to help share with the next generation, to offer some insight, and that's why I enjoy doing things like this. For even if one person hears one tidbit from this podcast that they're able to take and it's able to help them, then it's all worth it. Mm-hmm. And Coaching Your Kids, the whole idea is to help this next generation of coaches, of parents, of players, learn some basics about the game that is going to help them down the road. And whether it be, consulting with an organization to help best organize their own player development, whether it be running a camp, whether it be facilitating, something else, some other branch of the game, then that's really what the focus of Coaching Your Kids has been. It's always been about educating and using my experience to help push the next generation forward.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I thank you for coming on. Stay safe, stay healthy, and best of luck this season.
Yep, you got it. Thanks a lot, Billy. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll be right back here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast. Anchor Down Sports Performance and Billy the Bat Boys Corner have partnered up to bring to you Tip Tuesday. Tips from professional baseball player Conrad Gregor. These tips are designed for young players who are learning the game of baseball and look to improve their skills. You can find these videos for free on BillyTheBatBoysCorner.com or on the YouTube channel Billy the Bat Boys Corner. We are back here on the Bat Boys Corner podcast. We just had Darren Fenster on, a base running and outfield coordinator for the Boston Red Sox. And as he mentioned, there's a lot of uncertainty of how MLB teams will react to the draft, if they will select 5 guys or if teams will sign even more as undrafted free agents. I think every team will have its own plan and determine who they feel will fit their organization the best. I don't see them taking on 40 new guys per team. Maybe some teams who need to develop more younger talent will do so. A team like the Orioles or the Marlins, teams where at the major league level they're not succeeding and they need to develop that talent, they're going to want to bring in those younger guys. So I could see a team like the Marlins or the Orioles signing, say, 20, 30 guys, but a team like the Yankees, who they have a solid system, they might only bring in those 5 guys in the draft and maybe a couple extras. We'll see. And in regards to the minor league teams, I think it'll affect minor league baseball. I think their plan is to reconstruct a system where they have a single A and double A and triple A, and that's about it. I feel like they're going to get rid of short season ball, rookie ball, or at least eliminate it and make it one, maybe combine it or something like that. because I feel like they want to make it more uniform, a standard single A, double A, triple A, and then the big leagues. I don't think they want to have these other leagues where, it's only half a season, or, a rookie ball league. They want to upgrade the facilities, as Darren Fenster mentioned, and I think that's it's good for Major League Baseball, minor league baseball. They're the executives, but it eliminates opportunities for the players, and guys might end up have to go home and get a job there and not play baseball any longer. So or play indie ball, depending on their own situation. But we'll see what happens and see if they'll follow through with that proposal. So that'll do it here in the Bat Boys Corner podcast. We'd like to thank everyone for tuning in, and please stay connected with us by following us on Instagram at Billy_the_Batboys_corner, on Twitter at Billy the Batboy, on Facebook as Billy the Batboys Corner, and on TikTok as Billy the Batboy. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can be notified every time we post a new episode. Episode 4 will be out soon, so stay tuned. That'll do it for now. We'll see you next time on the Bat Boys Corner podcast.
Hi, this is John Sterling, and you're listening to the Bat Boys Corner podcast.